Hello everyone, my name is Genevieve Brechtel and today I'm here to show you how the ancient art of chainmail works. I started chainmail about 15 years ago in college, loved it ever since. I'm a bit of a fidgeter, so it's the perfect fidgety art for me. It's nice because you're taking something hard and immobile like metal and you're making it fluid, which is really fun. So if you're a bit of a fidgeter, this could be your art too. Today we're going to be making a little bracelet. It's going to be in the style of English 4-in-1. If you Google that or YouTube it, then you can find lots of other English 4-in-1 information. It's kind of the weave that's found mostly, you see it the most in movies like Lord of the Rings or other medieval movies. It's the most popular and it's fairly simple but with a little bit of a difficulty, so it's a perfect starter weave. The thing that you're going to want today is you're going to want supplies of wire, a rod, we're going to use pens or pencils, and then cutters. These cutters are interesting because they have a blade that goes all the way to the end, and that's going to be ideal. But they're also sharp, so you're going to want to have a parent around with you, just because you don't want to cut your finger or get your finger stuck in the blade. So the wire is going to be from, I recommend a hobby store, and I recommend 2 different colors of wire, and then I also recommend gauges of 14 and 16. Wire is interesting, it's measured in gauges, and basically the higher the number, the smaller the wire, the smaller the diameter of the wire. So for example, this is 22 gauge, and this is basically a copy of my wedding ring, which is also 22 gauge. If we're working with 2 gauge, that's about this size, and it's too big to do anything. We can't really mess with it. So 14 and 16 gauges are ideal. It's our sweet spot on being able to work with chainmail. You're going to want to find 2 different colors. That'll be important because it'll be easier to see what you're doing and distinguish between the middle and the edge. You're going to want to find the color of wire that's your favorite, and that's going to be the edge. You can see on this bracelet there's more rings on the outside than there are the inside, so you want your favorite color to be on the outside. Then you're going to have less rings on the middle or the inside. You're going to take your wire and you're going to start winding it around a rod. I really like these pens because they're cheap. You can use crayons or markers or knitting needles if you want, but the pens are nice because usually everybody has them and they have a nice cylinder that stays the same the entire way. The larger the cylinder, the larger the rings, but that also means the weaker the rings. The smaller the cylinder, the smaller the rings, but it's just much more difficult to work with. We're also working with aluminum wire. This wire is very nice as an introduction to chainmail, but it's not going to be very strong. Don't get in a fist fight. Don't get in a fist fight anyways, but don't get in a fist fight with this, or don't, take a sword to it or something. This is just for learning purposes. It's just to introduce you into chainmail. If you want to work later on with pliers and more heavy-duty chainmail, copper's another great one that's slightly stronger, but you might need pliers to work with that. So you're going to take your favorite color wire and you're going to start winding it around your rod. So here I've already started. You want it nice and close together. If you make it wide like an accordion, it's not going to make as nice of rings. They're going to kind of be wonky and not perfect circles, and we're aiming for perfect circles today. So you wind it nice and close. So the ideal when you're winding is you're going to want to wind to the length of your forefinger or pointer finger. Once you've wound enough for that length, you're going to kind of pull it off the pen. It kind of does a Chinese finger trick, so you sort of have to work it off the pen, and that's the length you want. You're going to take your cutters and nip the end if you have any extra. So you can put that off to the side. Then you're going to take your other color that's going to be in the middle, your blue in this case today, and you're going to wind it around just like the other, and you're going to want it half the size, half the length of your silver, or the largest color, the longest color. Once you've gotten to that point, we can move on to the next step, and that's going to be cutting the rings. For cutting the rings, you're going to want to cut off any excess. You can see on this silver here actually how it's sort of wonky and not a perfect circle on the side. And so you're going to want to cut that off until you have a nice perfect circle. And I call this casualties of armor. You're just going to set that off. It's not really going to be useful. And you're going to want to take the flat part of your cutters and you're going to have that up against the flat part of your coil. When you cut, you're going to want to cut right next to it, because then when you cut it, it'll make a perfect little ring, just like that. If I cut away from it, then when I go to bend it, it'll kind of make more of an oval. You can see the slight difference. This one has a much more defined difference. If that's not a perfect circle, it's going to be harder to work with, and it's going to be harder to see what you're doing and just not look as good. So ideal is perfect circles. Essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to create and cut a straight line across the whole coil of wire. Once you've done that, now you have rings. You're going to have these rings. They're interesting because they are slightly off. They're not quite open and they're not quite closed. They are going to scrape and bite against you, so they're not ideal. For all of the outer rings, in this case silver, you're going to want to close those. Closing rings, you always want to twist. So you're going to twist this closed, kind of scrape it against the edge. You want the closure to be as close as possible, because if you have any sort of gap, the gaps of the rings kind of find each other and it falls apart more easily. So I'll show you with my hands as well, because it might be easier to see. So say this is a just cut ring. If I close it by twisting, that's ideal. If I open it by twisting, that's ideal. Metal has an interesting springy quality to it. If you try and pull it apart like this, it's going to ruin the perfect circle that we were trying to create. If you try to push it back together, it will push to an extent, but it will always spring apart a little bit. Aluminum is notorious for this, because aluminum is especially springy. So the ideal is to twist all the time. Twist, not pull. Once you have all of your inner rings open and all of your outer rings closed, you can move on to the next step. I have some prepared already, which is handy. So once you have all of your rings, all the middle rings open and all of your outer rings closed, you can move on to the next step. You are going to take your middle ring, in this case blue, and that it's open, and you're going to put 4 closed rings on it. You just slide them on, and you want an opening big enough that you can slide things on and work things with. Now you're going to close this by twisting it closed, and now you have the start of English 4-in-1. So you can see here, this is sort of looks like a Mickey Mouse head. This is the Mickey Mouse ears, and this is the Mickey Mouse head, and this is the side that we're going to work on. So you're going to take another open ring, and they kind of do a monkey in the middle, or monkey, chain of monkeys. Yeah, no. So you're going to take an open ring, and you're going to kind of put it up. This is the left side, this is the right side. You're going to put the left up through the left, and you're going to put the right up through the right. You want to end up with the open edges of the ring facing up towards you instead of facing towards the table. Once you have that, you can add other rings on. I can add them both to same side and then flop them over later. Then you want to close it by twisting. And it can kind of be a panic moment right here, because when I have it right here, it looks like a mess. It looks like I didn't do things right, and it's panic time. It's okay, just usually lay it as flat as possible. Sometimes you have to flip rings over so that they pancake nicely. If you can see that all of the silver rings are just connected to the blue rings, and all of the blue rings are just connected to the silver rings. If you have a silver ring that's connected to silver, or a blue that's connected to a blue, you know that you need to take that part apart, take that piece apart, and then redo it. That's the nice thing about chainmail, is you can take it apart and put it back together as many times as you want, and there's no harm, no foul. So you're going to, again, you could hold it in your hand if you want, or you can work with a table. You're going to take an open ring up through the left and up through the right. You're going to take 2 more closed rings. Always want to add the closed and add it on, and then twist it closed, and you're starting to build chainmail. Now you're going to do this until you have the length of the bracelet that you want, until you end up with something like our bracelet. Then you are going to, then we get to work on the clasp. So we're going to be working on the clasp, and we are going to take one of the middle rings. I'll use blue, and so you can see it easier. And you're going to take a ring and you're going to open it all the way. You're going to keep opening it, and we're essentially making a little S hook. You can kind of see the S shape here. You're going to want to crimp this side a little bit, and then you can fit it on one side of the bracelet. So you kind of fit it on one of the rings, then you crimp it all the way closed so it stays on, and then you're going to take and crimp the other side. And so that the nice thing about chainmail is you always have a hook anywhere. You can hook it onto any ring, and you can hook it on the other side, and you have your chainmail bracelet. This is obviously not long enough, but all you have to do is add more rings lengthwise, and it works perfectly. Also, the neat thing is you can add to width. So you can add more, in this case, gold rings, and add it wider and make it wider. I have an example here. This is called, this is a pot scrubber, but essentially it's the same weave as what we just did. It's just I've added width instead of length. And so you just continue the pattern out. But it's the same thing. This is made with stainless steel, and it's a pot scrubber, which is lots of fun. But it's the same English 4-in-1 as what we've been doing. The other cool things that you can do are you can add rubber into the mix. This is stretchy with stainless. You can really see the stretch here. And I don't recommend using rubber with the aluminum, because aluminum's not going to be strong enough to hold that together. So you're going to want to work more with brass or stainless steel or copper. Copper still might be a little bit weak, but brass and stainless steel should do the job well. You can also take, this one's fun, this is a pop tab purse. It's English 4-in-1, if you can believe it, but you just use pop tabs as some of the rings instead of other rings. It took me about a year to complete because I don't drink soda, so I had to beg other people to drink soda and energy drinks for me. But it's kind of neat, and it's still the English 4-in-1 that we've been working with. The other thing is there's lots of different weaves that you can do. This is called dragon weave, or dragon scale, as some people call it, but it uses 2 different sizes, and so there's lots of different weaves that you can do. This is a chainmail tie, which is kind of fun. And there's lots of things that you can create. You can change the size of the wire, you can change the you can change the size of the ring, you can change the size of the gauge of wire, you can change the color, you can change the metal, and pretty much the world is your oyster when you want to do chainmail. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any other questions or want to know more about chainmail, my information will be at the end of this video, and please like and subscribe. Thank you again.